Congratulations on Mama.
Thank you.
This started off as a short film a few years ago. Now, I've seen the short film. It is scary. It's atmospheric. It's wonderful. But it's about 3 minutes long, and it's not story-driven. So tell me, what was it about that short film that made you go, I'm going to get behind this guy. I'm going to turn this into a feature film?
First of all, I had heard of him, Andy, a long time before through Guillermo Navarro, my cinematographer, because he had shot a couple of commercials with him. And Guillermo is a guy that doesn't like most anyone. He's a very, very, very picky person, shall we say. And he came to me and he said, look, there's this guy called Andy Muschietti. He's a real deal. And that stayed with me. And then when the time came, the short was sent, and I was looking at it, and I remember the name. I know this guy. And the short is, of course, brilliant and atmospheric and creepy. And, you can see a will, a storytelling will. Like you can see a voice. There's a filmmaker in that short. And very often you see shorts that are glossy, but they have very little to say, or that they are really intense and interesting, but they are badly done. But this short had the perfect balance of form and function and story. So that did it for me, and it was scary as hell.
The last, well, I don't want to give anything away, but the last 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds of this are intense. And it's not just a jolt that makes you go, ooh. It actually, and I wouldn't have really believed it because, again, nothing much happens in the short film except that you get such a good sense of what it did for me is it made my imagination run wild, and it made me create whatever story needed to be there that isn't told.
Correct. It is. And indeed, I think that Andy is a very, very welcome new voice in the genre. I'm very happy to see new people coming up. Evil Dead, the remake looks fantastic. You have Juan Antonio Bayona, which, of course, I love. Andy, a bunch of... new voices, a lot of Spanish guys. There's a lot of new generation French filmmakers too, and the horror genre.
Do you consider yourself a mentor?
Well, in the cases I produce, for sure, and in other instances too, I try to help. I try to help anyone that really is in dire straits, but is also a real narrator. Like years ago, when I was able to help financially only, Vincenzo, Natalie, to do Splice. Right. It was such a transgressive little piece, and he couldn't get it financed. And, I'm very, very proud of having been involved in that.
Splice is a great film. We had Vincenzo in here to talk about it, and I thought it was such a fresh voice. I mean, he's been making great movies for years, but that story went places that I didn't expect it to go.
That's why I supported him. Yeah. but see, like in those instances, I produce, but I don't present. He's an established filmmaker. Right. He is a very strong filmmaker, but presenting is basically almost like taking your daughter and introducing her to society. It's like a social commitment. Right. I'm saying I believe in this guy. I believe in this little film, and you should take a moment and take a look. It could be misconstrued as an act of ego, but it isn't. It's actually saying, people, I introduce you to Juan Antonio Bayona, I introduce you to Andy Muschietti, and so forth.
Well, I think it's using your fame to expose great work for other people. And I would somehow think maybe it harkens back to your earlier life. Dick Smith kind of took you under his wing, the legendary makeup artist, and taught you. And so that seems to me like it stayed with you.
Jim Cameron did the same. Pedro Almodovar did the same with Devil's Backbone with me. And I find I've been very, very blessed by finding good people that believed in me at the right time. Obviously, I try to pay it forward. And, I have by now I'm 48 years old, and I've been doing this for 30-something years, 20 directing. And I've been able to produce about I think, close to 20 movies between Mexico, Latin America, and Spain and so forth. I would say 99% of the cases it's been really, really beautiful.
Right.
Couple of cases has been hard, or the movie has been disappointing. But Mama is one of the good ones that I'm very proud of.
Right. Well, Mama's a good film, and it struck me that when you choose the material that you choose not to direct, not to actually sit behind the camera, they still feel in some ways like Guillermo Del Toro films. And I say that because often there are children involved. And I think certainly of the genre work of the horror films or the spookier stuff, that children are such a major part of it. I think of The Devil's Backbone, Pan's Labyrinth, it goes on and on.
The Orphanage.
The Orphanage.
Yeah.
So tell me what the link is, do you think, between your attraction to portraying childhood in these kinds of situations?
I had a horrible childhood emotionally. I didn't. I was not a child that got like beaten or locked in a closet, but I really had a very intense, shall we say, relationship with the horror of Catholic guilt and the Catholic dogma and all this. My grandmother was a very, very. It was like Piper Laurie and Carrie.
Yes.
So it was. I was like a chubby version of Carrie, and it was very difficult for me to get over that. And at the same time, I forged an alliance with the monsters when I was a kid.
Right.
So it's completely autobiographical in that sense. My Imaginarium sort of gets created in my early years. I jokingly say that I spent 40 years trying to recuperate from the first 8, but to a degree it's true. I mean, I really suffered intensely in the first 10 years of my life. I truly would cry at the concept of burning in hell, or the concept of purgatory and original sin and all these things that and Mexican Catholicism is very, very brutal and very, very gory. So that also affected me.
And your parents were devout?
No, my parents no, but my mother for a while in my life, she was an absent mother.
Right.
And my father was, like me, a workaholic. My dad, all the discipline I have for work, I got from my dad. At the same time, I didn't get a lot of my dad, But so I lived, most of my childhood I spent with my grandmother.
Right.
And she was, extreme, shall we say.
And I've heard a story about you reading Famous Monsters of Filmland, which was a magazine that was, beyond influential for me. We're the same age, so it was beyond influential for me. And it didn't go over well.
No. I mean, I learned to speak English by having a dictionary. Right. And reading Mad Magazine and Famous Monsters. And by reading the subtitles in Universal Monster movies. And learning what they were saying. So I literally was self-taught at a very early age, because I wanted to know what the pictures said in the magazine. My grandmother really hated that. It was strange because she, on the one hand, she bought the magazines for me. She really was a very doting woman. She was very loving, but one part of her was really, really damaged by religion. She there's no other way of saying it. But she loved me, and she would buy me my comics and my monster comics. But she had a very hard relationship with that, and she would cry also, like, why do you like these things? And like I would do a monster in plasticine or droid, and she would cry because it's not beautiful. But she did love me a lot, and I loved her. And Mama, in a strange way, is that type of love.
It is, because you have here 2 mother figures, one played by Jessica Chastain, who comes to it late in the movie, let's say. And then you have another mother figure. And, for me, she's not cruel. She's just possessive.
Yeah.
And I think that's
suffocating to a point.
She's suffocating, and I think that's sort of interesting. And again, I'll talk about this in a very general way because we don't want to give anything away.
No, but the girls survived 5 years because of that ghost.
Mm-hmm.
That ghost cared for them. And it's the same thing that I say about my childhood, about my mother, my grandmother. As suffocating as the influence was in certain ways, I survived my childhood because I had her love, right, in a way, you know. But the idea in the movie is to present that type of love and present Jessica Chastain rather than like a mother figure, like a woman that can love and get responsibility without becoming a mother. You know, it just becomes almost solidarity, if you want, and love, but pure love, not possessive. And what is great is, and this is Andy being very smart about it, what is great about the movie for me is that he keeps Mama hidden for about an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then he understands that we need to reveal her in order to be able to do the very shocking ending in which Mama needs to become a character at the end. Because the ending is one of the most unusual endings, beautiful, but not normal in a studio film these days.
I did not see the end coming, and I again we'll leave it at that. But there are some such beautiful imagery near the end, which struck me as religious imagery,
or a fairy tale too.
Yeah, a fairy tale. I thought of angels.
Yeah,
you know,
or
as
like
Mama
Madonna,
as she is hovering. Let's just say she's hovering with this sort of gossamer, almost wings or something around her. It's not; it's a wrapping, but it looks like that at some points. And so you really don't know which way this is going to go up until the very moment that it happens.
But the Mama is a scary, very scary figure. But at the same time, by the ending, you understand her story. You know she is a ghost in pain, and that she is a character. She becomes a character, and you want her. You want everybody at the end. You want everybody to fare well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and in a strange way, they all do.
Everyone gets what they want, I think.
Let's put it that way.
Let's put it that way. It might not be what you expect, but everyone gets what they want. A quote from you here is that history is ultimately an inventory of ghosts. And that really seems true in terms of the story of Mama. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I look back at your body of work, and I mean, I think that's a theme that goes through.
It certainly is. It's part of Hellboy, part of Pan's Labyrinth, part of Devil's Backbone. Yeah. Well, yeah, because I think that we have, nothing that has happened in the past has not affected our present. I believe that. I mean, everything that has happened in the past, everything. Mm-hmm. A guy dying in New Jersey without anyone knowing, it has affected who we are right now. And I do believe in everything being interconnected. And certainly in the bigger picture of history, that's true. You know, we still live under the shadow of the wars that we have waged. Mm-hmm. You know, the quote unquote war on terror, the Vietnam War, the Spanish Civil War. So all these things are still hovering around us, and whatever injustice, whatever brutal act has been done in the past, it weighs on us.
Well, do you think you talk a little bit about, in other interviews, you've talked a little bit about seeing death in a certain way because of your roots, because you're Mexican.
Yeah.
And you worked next door to a morgue for a while, so you saw bodies coming and going. You say that you've had a gun held to your head.
Yes.
People burned alive, stabbed, decapitated, all those kind of things. And you say Mexico is still a very violent place.
It is.
I guess that all figures into the work that you do. I mean, it's all. I'm just trying to paint a picture, I guess, of all the inspiration swirling around.
Let me put it this way: I abhor violence, but I think it's part of the human endeavor. You know, wherever we are is part of that, and I don't like it. I can handle it in fiction. I don't understand it very well in real life.
Right.
You know, but Mama is, curiously enough, such a beautiful, restrained film. Mm-hmm. You know, there's no gore, there's no brutality, but there is a lot of suspense, a lot of. It's more like a thriller aspect to it. There's no exploitation, imagery or stuff like that. But I believe that the few moments in the movie that are shocking are quite shocking.
Well, there are some great moments too where things are sort of happening in the background.
Yes.
And amazing things. And there's one long shot, and I loved this shot so much. Jessica Chastain is doing the laundry, and she's sort of walking up and down a hall, and it's one of those things where she almost goes into the room, and then it's like, oh, wait, one more thing. I have to go back down the hall. And there's something happening in that room, and I won't say what it is, but if you look through that open door and focus your attention on that, your mind will be blown.
Yeah,
and I thought it was such a lovely moment because it's unaffected. It's long.
That's 100% Andy Muschietti. 110%. Nobody told him anything. He knew that shot from the beginning. He wanted it. And this is where I think, and I don't want to sound, like it's a badge of merit, but it's a descriptive thing. That's where Mama is a very European movie. It may be American, Canadian, Spanish co-production, blah, blah, blah. But ultimately the sensibility, the overwhelming sensibility of Mama is Canadian, European. Andy is a guy that is, we have shots where things go counterpoint to what a normal horror movie would be. I love also the moment with the closet. Where he goes all the way to the classic, quintessential horror movie shot, where you're gonna get a big shock, and he diffuses it. And the audience reacts. They chuckle, they laugh,
Well, I think that's one of the things about this movie that I didn't expect going in, is that it's funnier than you think it is, but it's funny. It's not. There are no jokes, I don't think, but they are, by subverting your expectations of what you think you're going to see, this movie makes you laugh. And it makes you laugh in that kind of way. You go, I didn't see that. I go,
there's
what's he doing?
Intelligence. There's amusing intelligence behind it. I think Andy is really quite a filmmaker, and he knows what the audience is thinking. Case in point, that wide shot you were talking about. You can see the audience going, oh, this girl is playing with the other girl. Oh, it's not the girl. Oh, I know what it is. Like you construct it.
And that's up until the point that we haven't really seen Mama just yet. And that's what I kind of loved about it, is that you get this you get a glimpse of what you think maybe, is it a tentacle? Is it there's something like, or hair or something. You get a little glimpse of all those things, but you're never really exactly sure what they are.
No, it doesn't feel like a first movie.
No, it doesn't.
That's for sure. I mean, I really am very proud of that. In the same way, I would say that The Orphanage didn't feel like a first movie.
No.
They are two very solid filmmakers.
Do you remember back feeling the way you felt after your first movie?
Yeah, I felt flabbergasted. I mean, I think the first movie, I always say there are two important films in defining a filmmaker, the first one and the last one. Yeah. And it really is, you cannot most times be part of the last one, but you can certainly, if you are crazy enough, you can be part of the first one. And I feel what is great about Andy is that it's his first movie. He doesn't understand to a point how much he got away with, how really protected, and I'm proud of that. That happened with Juan Antonio, with Orphanage. After that, I saw him go and do the impossible, literally, because it's a crazy movie to attempt.
It's a huge movie. After having done what is essentially a horror character piece, a small movie, to make a movie about an almost epic movie about a tsunami with special effects, but still make it a human movie. It's not an action movie still, but it has these action elements. I couldn't believe it was the same filmmaker.
But it's also a movie that looks like it costed $150 million. And the thing with Juan Antonio, and I believe this, is to a point, because The Orphanage was done in a very protective environment, and he got everything he needed. He was able to leap into something much bigger, and I hope Andy does too.
I think he will. People responded well to this the other day when I saw it. There was, for my money anyway, people laughed when they should have. They went, when they should have. They did. They reacted the way that I think if had you guys been sitting in the back row watching us, that you would have liked.
What is very gratifying is I would qualify the ending of the movie as very moving and very emotional. And what is great is we've been having many screenings in L.A. and New York, and we have seen a couple. I've been there, and people. There's a good amount of people that get moved to tears sometimes with the ending.
Well, we talked earlier about your use of children in movies quite often, but you know, I never feel like I'm being manipulated by the use of children. Sometimes when you have kids in movies, if it's a horror film or a romantic comedy or whatever genre it is, the kids are there kind of in the same way that you give the main character a dog because you know if he's got a big golden Labrador retriever that he's a good guy, you know? And so the kids are often used that way. I don't feel that way about these movies.
No, well, because the kids are not devices. They are real characters. Yeah. I mean, I think arguably you know, all the kids in Devil's Backbone are real characters. I mean, they are not only instrumental to the storytelling, but they are distinctive characters. There's other types of utilization of kids in movies where they become devices almost. You know, they become the possessed child, or the they're used almost like trump cards,
right,
for the emotions of the audience. But in the case of Mama, for example, you can distinctly see the way the two girls weave or not weave their relationship with Annabelle, with Jessica Chastain. One of them starts connecting, the other one doesn't. But even and this is to everybody's credit, even the one that quote unquote doesn't connect with Jessica has a couple of really moving moments.
Well,
beautiful.
There's a great scene where Jessica Chastain learns how to comfort the little girl.
And it's a beautiful scene because the girl is out in the cold and she brings the girl into the house and she starts blowing warm breath in her cold hands. Yeah. And you realize this girl has only been comforted by a cold creature,
right, which
is Mama, and that this is the first warm adult female human that comforts her. So it's a very beautiful, moving moment.
It is, and it's a moment nearish the end of the movie. You know, it comes in the last 40 minutes. I think
it comes in the last quarter.
Yeah, when you would expect normally in a film like this that all hell's breaking loose by that point, and it's not. It's a really quiet moment that's lovely between the two of them.
Yeah, it's unexpected. It's beautiful, but the movie, you know, it's funny. We had a very, very beautiful relationship creatively. And we were able to shape it. We also, one of the things we were very careful with is that the movie was fiscally perfect, on time, on budget. Right. We finished under budget, under schedule, and therefore we had enough money left so that we saw the whole movie and we were able to go to the studio and say, if you give us a little bit more, we can reshoot or shoot additional scenes.
Right.
And we were able to do that and shape the material to the way we wanted it.
And I guess that's the kind of thing that you only learn after you've produced 30 movies and directed 9. I mean, you learn how to play the game that way.
Well, it's the same way that when I'm a good producer with me, like in Pacific Rim, my producer Callum Green, you know, he was super hard with me during the shoot. Like, no, you cannot go an extra hour, you cannot go an extra day. Right. That's it. And then at the end of the movie, we were 4 days under schedule and several million under budget.
Wow.
And we were able to then he said, okay, now you have 4 days. What do you want to do? And I used them. I ended up using them. But that's the way I think. I produce the way I like to be produced.
Right. Well, you made Pacific Rim in Toronto.
Yeah.
It's a huge movie.
Yeah.
The trailers are mind-blowing
that
are out already. Tell me just a little bit about it, what you can, because I don't think we should give too much away about it. But this is the big monster movie, and I mean big in terms of giant monster movie to end them all. Is that the idea?
Well, the idea, I showed the movie the other day to Ryan Johnson, you know, and Ryan had a beautiful compliment. He said, look, this movie is exactly what I would have dreamt of as a kid playing with my robot toys and my robot monsters.
Right.
You know, it really has. I'm gonna say an almost wide-eyed wonder to it. That where you can feel me in awe of the creatures and the robots and I try to have fun with it in a very clean, beautiful way, almost like a throwback to adventure movies. You know, when I was a kid, I used to be fascinated by the vivid colors of The Thief of Baghdad. You know, the Korda produced movies, and this movie has that sense of excitement and adventure. Is really gorgeous. I'm very proud of it, and you know, I jokingly say if you like the trailer is like Howard Zenn's trailer. It's like a Merchant Ivory trailer. The movie is much more, but it's also much more in terms of emotion and world creation. It's a bigger world, and the characters and the actors do a very beautiful job. And you know, hopefully, people will find it not only exciting and beautiful, but moving.
Well, listen, I can't wait. I can't wait to see this movie.
Me neither.
I found a great quote from you. We're talking a lot about kids and childhood today, so I thought this might be interesting. You said, as a kid, I dreamed of having a house with secret passages and a room where it rained 24 hours a day. The point of being over 40 is to fulfill the desires you've been harboring since you were 7.
This is true.
And this is Bleak House that you're talking
it's now
about.
2 houses.
Well, explain, because I've seen the video. I've explained for people what Bleak House is.
What happened is 7 years ago, when I was hanging up, I used to have about half of my house, the family home, was occupied by my collection of stuff, and it was really, really getting to a hoarding point. You know, where you were moving between piles of books and stuff like that. So I was hanging a picture in the kitchen, and my wife said, "There's no way you're putting that picture near the kitchen where the kids go by every day." And I had a moment, and I realized, look, I'm 42 or 41, and I spent all my early years with my mother telling me what not to do, and now I'm married, and my wife is telling me what not to do, and I said, screw it, I'm buying a house, and I went and bought a house. And for me, away from the family home. And I said, oh, this is too ambitious. I'm never going to fill it up. And now I bought the house next door and expanded it. And it is a house. I do everything. I decorate it. I assemble the furniture. I place the books. I choose the framing on the pictures. I install the books. I install everything. And I don't trust anyone else to do it, first of all. But the house is now a vast collection of thousands and thousands of books, 7,000 movies, thousands of DVDs, thousands of collectibles, life-size statuary. There's bronzes in the garden. There's a life-size H.P. Lovecraft standing in the library looking at you when you enter. Almost the entire cast of Todd Browning's The Freaks is around the house, like looking at you.
In life size.
Life size. Yeah. I commissioned them, and there's 2 great artists. One is called Thomas Kubler, and he's incredible, and Mike Hill, and they are amazing. You can Google them, and they do lifelike silicone and figures that look like the person. And so the house is populated by Boris Karloff as Frankenstein being made up by Jack Pierce, a Frankenstein face, which you can Google. You can put Mike Hill Frankenstein, and you'll find it. It's about 8 feet tall, the face, and about 4 feet wide. And it hangs on the balcony oblique, looking at you from the balcony. I have Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein. I have Oliver Reed as the werewolf in Curse of the Werewolf, Leon, you know, and secret passages, secret doors behind paintings, a room where it rains 24 hours a day. And
can you imagine doing anything else? Or would it be possible for you to do anything else than what you do?
No, it's come to the point now for me that frankly, you know, a lot of people are workaholics, which means they are basically escaping real life through their work in a dramatic, addictive way. I'm not a workaholic. I really live when I'm working. It's the only form of life I know. Obviously I have my family life, which is very fulfilling and beautiful. But I'm saying, if you removed the storytelling and the filmmaking from it, I would crumble. Right. I would not exist. It's like today I was discussing Quentin Tarantino, and I was saying the reason why Quentin, people that misread Quentin, they think there is a smug, postmodern winking that is dissecting cinema of the past. No, the guy literally has a promiscuous relationship with cinema. Cinema for him is life. Mm-hmm. Life, I don't know if he's very apt socially or not. We're friends, but right. I have no idea. But he definitely has been able to breathe and survive as a person because of movies.
Absolutely, and I've met him a number of times, and that's exactly the feel that I get from him.
But that's him. It's not a pose.
No, it's not a pose. And that's the thing. And I think that you're right. I think that's what people misunderstand about him. And maybe that's why. You and Quentin, and I'm sure that there's a few others that I could lump into this group, who are people that not only direct but create. Mm-hmm. The stories that you make, you create. And not all directors do, and I think maybe that's the thing that sets you guys apart. Well,
but also the thing is that I live the stuff. I'm not I'm not sure that. Who I appeal to, I really am not. But I know I'm ill-fitting in a lot of places. Like I'm not entirely just this or that, or I love doing. People tell me, "Oh, I love your Spanish movies," but I see. I'm very glad you do the American ones to finance the. I don't. No. You misunderstand. Hellboy, or in this instance, Pacific Rim, is as personal to me as Devil's Backbone or Pan's Labyrinth. There is no movie I undertake in a different way, or the fact that I'm a geek. I love comic books, but for the last 20 years, I've been following more underground comics than mainstream ones.
Right.
If you tell me where is Batman today, I have no idea. Is Superman alive or dead? I don't give a crap. I'm not that guy.
Right.
I'm following Chester Brown. I'm waiting patiently for him to publish something else. Jim Woodring. I'm waiting for Mignola. I'm waiting for other stuff. And at the same time, I'm also a guy that has a huge thirst for literature, and I don't mean only Pulp Fiction or hard-boiled this or that. I really try to read books that make me a better person, a better being. I immerse myself in the people I admire, be it Nathaniel Hawthorne or Mark Twain or Oscar Wilde or Jorge Luis Borges or Truman Capote or all this interest that. So I don't know where I completely fit, but it's come to the point at 48 where I'm just comfortable.
Well, maybe it's better not to know. Maybe it's better not to overthink it, because then you have those moments where you try and give people what they want. I mean, you were kind enough to give me a quote, read my book, give me a quote for Raising Hell, and do the thing. And I'll tell you, when I wrote this book, I didn't think anyone would buy it.
Yeah.
But I thought, for once, I'm going to do something that is personal.
Yeah.
And now it turns out it's probably going to be my biggest selling book ever. And I'm thinking, what the hell? Why did I wait so long?
Because I think that if you they say that for the universe to come to you, you need to be standing still. You need to be not doing anything but being yourself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's true. I mean, you spend your youth, your 20s, and your 20s are particularly disorienting because you're hustling and bustling to get somewhere. And there's a point in which you just mercifully start relaxing in your own skin, and then just things happen. Some of them not good, some of them really great, but you understand that you are now you.
Yeah, I think for me, and I get this sense from you as well, because again, as I said, we're pretty much the same age. I mean, a little 6 8 months older than you are, but
that
who's
counts.
Counting? Yeah. But I'll tell you, for me, what it was a sense of being comfortable enough that I didn't really care what everybody else thought. In your 20s, I wanted to get my first book out, and I thought, well, how do I get this out and be able to do another one? I have to write something that people are going to like, and it didn't occur to me that if I liked it a lot, then then it would find its own audience.
Well, if you're honest about it. Is probably the first book that you write for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Like the other books, you were thinking, I want to write a book for it to sell.
Yeah.
And when you write the book, I mean, every movie I direct, and there haven't been that many, it's 8, Every movie I direct, I swear to you, I think is the last movie I do. I for whatever reason, you're fatalistic and you say, I'm going to treat it like this is it. And that's why I try to edit during the shoot. I edit during the shoot because I can't wait to see the movie because it's going to be over and then I'm not going to direct anymore.
Right.
I'm always worried about these things. And with Pacific Rim, once I finished shooting about a week or 2 after I had the first cut. And I was very happy. I was for the first time able to relax. Is the movie I've enjoyed making the most.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that's the point from now on. I look at David Cronenberg. Mm-hmm. He's so comfortable.
He's doing whatever he wants now.
Yes.
And I spoke with him recently, and he said the essence to me of pure cinema is fantastic faces saying fantastic words.
Yes.
And you look at Cosmopolis, and he has not strayed from that ethos 1 centimeter.
You know what is funny? I'm finding him right now. I mean, he's always been a good friend, mm-hmm. and B a sort of iconic figure for me, because he. What I think is when you bring refinement, intelligence, and passion to genre filmmaking, unique, beautiful pieces come out. It's rare that those factors are in a genre piece. But he did it, and much as he is not doing exploding heads or penises under the armpits anymore, you still find that savage streak in his movies.
Oh, absolutely.
There is still the civilized savage.
And it's very much, I thought, on display in Cosmopolis, mm-hmm. even though, it is a movie that is an anti-action movie, but I loved it. There's
an intellectual ferocity to Cronenberg.
Yeah.
That is, I think, his most brutal aspect, mm-hmm. even in the exploding head phase, is intellectual.
Yeah.
There is a will, a transgressive will, that has not changed an iota. Yeah. From the young filmmaker to the statesman that he is now, but beyond that, he has refined that essence to a point that is enviable. You see other filmmakers stray mm-hmm. and lose, and he is distilling. It's amazing. But what I'm trying to say with all of this is, you see a guy there that has always done exactly what he wants to do.
Right. Well, I see that with you. I mean, David Cronenberg turned down, I think it was the second Star Wars movie mm-hmm. they wanted him to direct.
Yeah.
He turned down Flashdance. Now, Star Wars pretty much guaranteed to be a hit. Flashdance, maybe not so much, but in retrospect, it seems like, those are 2 big missed opportunities. I asked him about it once, and he said, I said, what would it have been like if you had directed Flashdance? He goes, well, it would have been a huge failure. That's what it would have been like, because it wasn't his thing. And you do the same thing. To get Hellboy made, mm-hmm. you turned down movies that went...
I'm famous for the ones I turned down. I don't know about the ones I make, but to be honest, there's only one movie. Every movie I have left behind or not done, or I don't repent at all. There's one that I can't help but wonder, which was Prisoner of Azkaban.
Yeah.
Because I really love the books.
Yeah.
I love the books. I don't love all the movies. But at that stage, I saw the first 2 movies and they were a little too happy for me.
Yep.
And I thought, do I really want to go on and try to change the entire universe like that? I mean, I wanted, because the world is fascinating, and she's a very good writer.
I thought Azkaban was, of all of them, that's the movie. That is, for me, because
it is my favorite, without a doubt.
Yeah, Alfonso Cuarón created something new there. He took a franchise that, for me, didn't always. I thought they were too slavishly loyal to the books, but aiming it at a younger audience, whereas he didn't. And that's what I love about that movie is that he took the books for what they were, these dark stories.
Well, the first 2, I always saw them as Dickensian. The first 2.
Yeah. Well, and I thought what he did was not treat the audience like he had to spoon feed them. And it's a terrific movie. I would have loved to have seen what you would have done with it.
You know what is funny? There's a faction of the fans of the Potter universe that dislikes that movie,
right?
Very much, because it's not slavish, because this and that. But even to those fans, I can say safely, realize that Alfonso did create the bridge that allows the other movies to exist.
Right.
If you had continued in the direction of the first 2, you couldn't have gotten to the way the books get darker and darker.
Right.
It would have seemed like a false change.
Right.
But no, listen, when I saw that movie, I told Alfonso, I love you and hate you, man. It's a great movie, but that's the only one that went away that I will always wonder about.
Well, will you ever make Frankenstein?
I hope so, one day, yeah. I mean, I really don't know when anymore. Universal hasn't. They were going to do allow me to start the screenplay, but we haven't finished the paperwork and all that. I want to make sure that I have creative control, complete creative control, and until that is, I mean, it's like that girl that you've been dating for 35 years, and you can't say, "Would you marry me?" It's kind of shameful, and for all the fact that I do think the web makes me seem busier than I really am, and more. This is the one project that I do pursue and drop because it's daunting for me.
Yeah.
It's the most important story for me in the history of narrative. The most important book in my life was Frankenstein. The most important movie is James Whale's Frankenstein.
Well, I see the direct link between what we were discussing now almost an hour ago, your upbringing in Catholicism, and the story of Frankenstein, the beginning of life, all that stuff. I see probably having read that as a young boy or a teen, that you might have drawn those connections.
Yeah.
And plus, it is this world of monsters that you were so enamored with. Of course, I mean, it makes perfect sense to me.
And what was beautiful is I obviously, like every other kid, I fell in love with the story through James Whale's movie. Which is full of beautiful contradictions and the clash, I tell you, the clash of Whale's incredible intellect and Boris Karloff's incredible humanity. That's what produces an immense movie. But also I came through those movies, and then I read the book and I realized nobody has done the book.
Yeah.
I mean, and to this day, nobody has done the book. It's amazing to me, but nobody has done the emotions that are in the book, and the way I want to treat the one I do is I would love to not be slavish, not recreate the book, but create the same effect that the book has, which is it's an incredible journey of the creature,
Right. Guillermo, they're going to take you away from me now.
All right.
Listen. I can't thank you enough.
We could have a coffee after that.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and go see Mama.
Go see Mama. Go see Mama. It's really good. It's really good. I am someone who, like you, loves genre movies. Yeah. I like horror movies, and this one is different and unexpected, and
So be a good kid and go see Mama this weekend.
Right.